Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. And I hope we've got a bunch of folks that are going to weigh in and ask their questions. And we got several people that are available to us here to really answer your question as accurately as we possibly can. Last few days have been pretty monumental days, to say the very least, in the state of West Virginia. But we have completed our special session. I absolutely have all the thanks in the world to our legislatures on both sides, Senate and House, and good work. And I've got to say this, and I'd be terribly remiss if I didn't say this, but I'm not going to be able to be with you forevermore as your governor. I would be the very first to say that it's been a gigantic honor of my life to be your governor. I would also say just this. We have different styles in the world. My dad would have always taught me, and I hope that I've done this, that, when I've made a mistake along the way, I've tried to own up to the mistake and tried to admit, as to what the problem was or where we dropped the ball, and not be afraid of that, because we all make mistakes. Now, just to be perfectly honest, though, for I don't know however long it may be, whether it be days or weeks, we've been beating the drum in every direction, known to man, that, Justice and them, they don't have a plan. They don't know where they're going to go with this special session, and this isn't going to get done, and this isn't going to get done, and on and on and on. For years, it's been one thing right after another, because I'm a different animal. That's all there is to it. We have different styles. But for crying out loud, if we just step back and think and be really fair, look at the level of the accomplishments. And you don't do that by just rolling off the log. That's all there is to it. So with all that being said, for the folks to be beating the drum and screaming to the high heavens, we don't have a plan, we don't have this, just think. And now it's time to own up. Now it's time to step up, if you're a man or you're a woman, and say, dag, what in the world just happened? We just passed, I think, a total of 37 bills. 37 bills that were just passed. Now think about that. Could you have accomplished that without a per se plan? Could you have accomplished that if you hadn't been working on this forevermore? It may be different than the way a past governor would have done something, but remember, the past governor was celebrating and cutting a ribbon at a Taco Bell. Well, I don't want to cut a ribbon at a Taco Bell. I want to cut a ribbon at Nucor Company, or Berkshire Hathaway, or on and on and on, Forum Energy, or whatever it may be. I want to cut a ribbon at $1,800,000,000 surplus, or I want to cut a ribbon at absolutely really reducing our income tax by $750 million. And that was the first cut to personal income tax. And now we've triggered another 4%. And now, just yesterday, we did another 2. So I want to cut ribbons that really impact and change the lives of all West Virginians. So with all that being said, all I would say is going forward as time goes on, I don't really care what you say about Jim Justice. It doesn't matter to me, because my dad taught me just this. Son, if you know, and the good Lord knows, that's all that really matters. And I do know, and the good Lord knows, the value and the level of successes that this state has absolutely pulled off since I walked in the door is off the chart. And I know this, that it's not Jim Justice by himself in any way. He didn't ever want it that way. He wanted this to be all of us, and that's what we've done. You see, my vehicle right out there has got 293,000 miles on it. And I think it's probably the third or fourth vehicle that I've driven since I've become your governor. I've driven over 1 million miles. Every one of those miles I've paid for all my gas, all the repairs, everything. Everything. You see, I don't want anything. I never have. That's why I say over and over and over that it has been unbelievable that we have pulled the rope together and we've done what we've done. With all that being said, just think, 37 bills. We cut taxes. We approved over $660 million of dollars that will go to the public benefit, funds that will go to the public benefit out of surplus dollars. Now think about this for a second. Since I walked in the door, we have done over $2 billion of additional benefits with surplus dollars. Well, how have we done it? Well, I'll guarantee you exactly how we've done it. It's just as simple as just this. We started out with Road to Prosperity. We started out with nowhere to turn. And we started out with Road to Prosperity and putting a stake in the sand and saying, by God, we're going to make education our centerpiece. And then from that, we absolutely became the frog that was proud of his own pond. And then tourism took off like crazy. We changed our image. It absolutely has worked. It's different. It's different. But why in the world should we cling to what we were? I mean, why should we not cling to something that is light years better? Light years. And so today we celebrate. We celebrate all the good stuff, whether it be infrastructure or broadband or communities and schools, economic development, school safety, drought relief, and it just goes on and on and on. Whether it be EMS, and I've just made myself just scribbled a bunch of notes and everything, or higher ed, whether it be our child care tax relief, and it continues to just go off the chart. We've helped our veterans. We've shored up PEIA. It is unbelievable what we're doing for our rural hospitals and on and on and on. Now, with all that being said, think with me just about just this. 2% tax cut. It's not going to put all the money in the world in people's pockets, is it? That has never been the reason why. I'd like to have done more, but at the same time, am I tickled to death? 100%. 100% tickled to death. You said it couldn't be done. You said you'll never get it done. I've heard it over and over and over. Justice, you'll not get this done. It's done. Dad would say it's done. Now, with that being said, what is the significance of this? Here's the significance. It's not that it's going to put all the money in the world back into folks' pockets. It's the multiplier effect on the dollars. First, it's $40 million going back into our economy. The multiplier effect of those dollars, people will spend it just like that. The multiplier effect on those dollars normally is 10 times. If it's 10 times, that's $400 million that's going around and around and around in our economy. Is that the absolute biggest thing? Nope. The biggest thing is just this. The outside world sees West Virginia. And they look at West Virginia and they say, dag, West Virginia cut their taxes by 21.25%. They cut their personal income taxes by 21.25%. And they have cut taxes in West Virginia now 26 times since Justice walked in the door. 26 times we've cut taxes since Justice walked in the door. Now, they're looking at your personal income tax because there's nothing that will drive more folks to West Virginia bigger than the personal income tax. No way. Just think where you're located. You're located within a rock's throw of 2/3 of the population of the country. Absolutely. Where do you think that population's got to drive through to get to a state that doesn't have any personal income tax? West Virginia. For God's sakes, a living, they drive through West Virginia to get to Tennessee, to get to Florida. Absolutely, trust me, there is nothing bigger in the state of West Virginia than getting rid of our personal income tax. This 2% doesn't get rid of it, does it? No, but it sends a signal to the world. We just did 21.25. Right behind that, we get another 4. We triggered on another 4, and now we've done another 2. What does that tell everybody? That tells everybody, absolutely, West Virginia is a place you ought to look. Not only does it have everything that we've said 5,000 times, the greatest people, the greatest seasons, absolutely so much opportunity, it's off the chart, but what West Virginia is on a pathway, and they're showing the world right now, you better come to West Virginia to live. Because when you come to West Virginia to live, you're going to awaken to a state that doesn't have a personal income tax. All these things really make a difference. You know, I've said it 50,000 times. You know, the first State of the State address, I basically stood up and said, we've got to put that stake in the sand to where we're going to absolutely make education our centerpiece. Well, why did I do that? The reason I did that is because the world needed to see our commitment to education in West Virginia. And all of a sudden, the world started to open eyes that had been so negative toward West Virginia forever and ever and ever. Then the next thing I said is we've got to fix our roads. We've got to pass our roads to prosperity. With all that being said, it was multiple times, I think 5 or 6 times, the biggest of all time. Everybody said the same thing. No way, no way, no way. Toby and Edith stepped up to the microphone, though, didn't they? They passed it by right at 73% of the vote. Toby and Edith spoke. They're the ones that spoke and said, we believe in what Governor Justice is telling us, and we're going to ride with him right now. And when Toby and Edith speak, everybody listens. And that's exactly what happened. And lo and behold, we became all the other things. Frogs proud of our own pond. Absolutely, before you know it, the whole world is looking at West Virginia, and saying, that's the place you ought to go. And so today, we celebrate. We celebrate that we absolutely didn't do as much as I wanted to do in regard to child care, but we did something. The first ever for working families in West Virginia. We did something. $50 million that went back to our people in tax breaks on PIT and child care. $50 million went back to our people. I wish it had been more, but with all that being said, my goodness, for all the naysayers, and if you believe those crazy people, you believe them. There's nothing I can do about that. But if you believe people that are running through the wilderness saying, they have no plan, they have no plan. Well, Dad would have said, son, it's pretty damn good to pass 37 bills in 48 hours for somebody that didn't have a plan. Well, we had a plan. We had a plan all along. And we've been working through the summer and on and on and on with the legislature in every way. And today, we have our Senate President with us. I want to take time to thank our Speaker, Roger Hanshaw, and our Senate President, Craig Blair. The reason we got Craig with us today is Craig is moving on from the presidency of the Senate soon. He's done a great job. And really and truly, he's a friend. Sure, we disagreed from time to time. So what? You know, but with all that being said, I'll never forget Lawrence Wiseman. He was a basketball coach at Woodrow Wilson when I played there a long time ago. I was anything but a superstar and everything, but he taught me so many different things that he'll probably never, ever know. But the basketball coach at the junior high was Ross Earl. And Ross Earl and Coach Wiseman, who was at the high school, got arguing with one another. And they were really, really mad at each other. That's all there is to it. And I'll never forget, I was standing there, we're getting ready to practice, and absolutely Coach Wiseman walked right into Coach Earl's office and said to him, he said, "Ross, there's nobody in the world worth being mad at more than 24 hours. You know, sure, we disagree from time to time, but really and truly, we need to move on. Craig Blair's done an incredible job. Roger's done an incredible job. Absolutely, they're friends and everything, and we've got Craig with us because he's not going to be with us forever, neither am I, you know, but what a job he's done, and I'll never forget it, and he's a friend, and I think we should all always remember, you know, that Craig Blair's done a great job. So nevertheless, you know, he's going to come on and speak in just a second, but like I said, so much accomplished. I mean, my gosh, living. This is an incredible day. Another incredible day in West Virginia. So I'll defer now to your questions, and first I'll tell you, let's bring Craig on. Craig, talk to us.
Well, thank you, Governor. And on October the 7th, when you had everybody out here last Monday and was talking about the Roads to Prosperity, the fact of the matter is the Roads to Prosperity is more than just that program. You have set our state on the road to prosperity, and we can't forget about that. Look, one of the things that you failed to mention when you were out there was the $100 million that we put into the road fund from the general revenue. And then the following year, $130 million. The following year, $150. Another $150 the following year. And what it was is because of good management, good leadership on your part, our part, working together as a team for the people of West Virginia so that we could actually put all West Virginians on the road to prosperity. On the tax relief, we cannot forget right now that when you add that 4% and the 2% together, that's $132 million in tax relief. I can remember when I was first elected, we were hoping for somebody to win the Powerball just to be able to fill the holes in the budget. My God, how the world has changed in the state of West Virginia. And again, that happened with your leadership, our leadership, all of us working together as a team. And when we disagreed, we didn't allow it to bleed over onto other things that we could agree about to move forward. Look at the rainy day fund, Governor. Oh my golly. Just last month alone went up $100 million in value. The tax relief overall in the state of West Virginia, $1.5 billion. That's back into the people's pockets and in businesses' pockets so that they can be profitable again in the state of West Virginia while we continue to be an energy state and grow our economy. Again, under your leadership of being able to do that. One of the things I'm most excited about to come off to the special session, and you're absolutely right, Governor, I can't remember a special session that when we come in and we put 40 bills on the call, and we didn't do it just this time, we did it the times before. Why? Because we were moving at the speed of business, not the speed of government. And that sends a message, not to just the people of West Virginia, but to the people of the world, that you do have a plan. We have a plan to make West Virginia one of the best places to work, live, and raise a family. And it's all those things that you've done to help make us believe in ourselves and understand that we can do this and that there's so many efficiencies to be found. And another one that we don't talk about a whole lot, but it's pay raises. 6 years of 5% pay raises with tax reductions on top of it. You know, That is a huge deal. And I could see that today, the other day, on October the 7th, when all those transportation workers was out there and showing their support for you, Governor, and the projects that have been put in place in the state of West Virginia. My God, that's amazing. Those people are bought into the fact that they know that if we all row the boat together, as you say, that we're going to create great things for the people of West Virginia. We're all going to benefit from it. And ultimately, our youth and the education that you've spearheaded on being able to do that, when we get them educated, we're going to have an educated, drug-free workforce ready to go to work for the jobs that are being created in the state of West Virginia. All because of you, Governor. All because of you, your leadership. So I'm here to, let me add one last thing, and then I'll stop. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to this today, and that is the broadband. In 5 years, it's with a lot of confidence on my part, and I believe on many, that every place in West Virginia, no matter where you're at, there's going to be fiber on the poles out in front of your home where there's going to be that broadband. And that's going to help grow the smaller areas, the more rural areas of the state. And I know in my area, from the Eastern Panhandle, some of our most rural areas, we've got businesses in our hollers. And that broadband makes all the difference to be able to compete. And when new businesses come in, there'll be cell service, there'll be broadband, and they'll be ready to be shovel ready and start expanding and bringing more and more jobs to the state of West Virginia. So, Governor, I can't applaud you enough to thank you for the opportunities that you've given, not just to me or the Senate or the legislature, but to the people of West Virginia. Again, I've been around a long time, and I've never seen any prosperity in government working the way it does today. It's never happened like that in my lifetime. And hopefully, what you've done, what we've done, is going to transcend and keep being that way into the future, even when we're gone. You set the way, the path forward, and I'll say it one more time. You talked about the roads for prosperity, but the true road to prosperity was the work that you've done in its entirety. That was truly the road to prosperity for the people of West Virginia. Thank you. Thank you for all you've done.
Craig, thank you, and I really appreciate your words, but I really mean this, and you know it. We've pulled the rope, haven't we? And we've done it, and now I know what you want. You want more and more and more prosperity for the people of West Virginia. I want the same thing, and I can never thank you enough for your service to this state, and don't run off. I mean, for crying out loud, just keep doing it. Keep doing good stuff and everything, because we need you. You know, you've been really good, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So, doggone, you know, I could get real sentimental about this. I know Kathy was up at, we were just up at the education department, and you know, they showed a little clip there and everything about when Kathy first started with communities and schools. And I've got to just say this, you know, in regard to that, and there's so many, for crying out loud, you can't get to all of them. I mean, you know, it's unbelievable. I mean, you know, whether it be tax cuts or the new cores or you know, the communities and schools, or the work with the EMS folks and trying to help with corrections, and it just goes on and on and on. I mean, tourism's exploding in this state. And of all things, the whole world is awakening, like I said, over and over, to the fact that they know West Virginia, of all places. And so with all that being said, you know, I watched Kathy, and with big tears in her eyes and everything, about the fact that just all the things that have been accomplished, and just the level of love and care for our state. And if you'd watched real closely, you'd see exactly the same in Craig Blair. So Craig, I mean this when I tell you I love you, and I thank you in every way. So So with all that being said, to the House, the Senate, and all those, we've completed an unbelievably successful special session, and we did it with a plan, in all fairness. But with all that being said, again, I thank everyone, and we'll take your questions now, please.
Governor, thank you. Now we'll take questions from members of the media. First up today is Steve Adams with Ogden News. Stephen, we're having trouble with you. We'll try and come back. Let's now go to Mark Curtis with Nexstar Media.
Good afternoon, fellow reporters and staffers and Senate President Blair. By the way, Governor, a week from tomorrow is a very special day in West Virginia. It'll be Senate President Blair's birthday, and he's catching up to me in age. It's a milestone birthday. I won't say the number, Craig, but congratulations. And listen, I appreciate you working with you these last several years. You've always been cooperative, never dodged a question or an interview, and I appreciate that. Governor, and maybe President Blair wants to weigh in on this too. Governor, I've talked to Republicans and Democrats alike in both the House and the Senate, and they think the child care tax credit is a good start, but it doesn't go far enough. Basically, it will pay West Virginia families about $250. That's enough for 1 week of child care. The federal subsidy is double that, $500. So basically, people can get maybe 3 weeks of child care out of this help. As we go forward with people saying this is a good start, what do we need to do next steps? This is not a West Virginia problem, by the way. It's a nationwide crisis. And if you're going off to Washington and the U.S. Senate, what can be done at the federal level and the state level to increase subsidies and help for child care for working families, especially those who want to attack to West Virginia?
Mark, we've got to first and foremost, and we had to do this. I mean, this is the thing that is so profound, and you'll never get out of the hole until you decide where you are in the hole, and you're willing to admit to that. I say all the time to my basketball teams, I say to any group that I'm speaking to, now just think about this, Mark, because I'm going to give you some profound, absolutely advice or wisdom here. What do you got to do to get better? What do you have to do to get better? And a lot of people would say, oh, you got to work harder, you got to be more disciplined, you got to be more focused, and all those things are true. But what you've got to do to get better is admit you're doing something wrong. That's the first thing you got to do. Mark, in regard to child care, I absolutely, I've said it 15,000 times, we needed to put more money into child care than we did. It's a good start. It's at least the beginnings. We couldn't get out of the gates before. Now we're out of the gate. We got to do more. We got to do more. From the federal government standpoint and everything, we got to find a way. We got to find a way to be able to help our states and absolutely do as much as we possibly can. You have to have some level of legislation, and so there's all kinds of different things. We can talk about it till the cows come home, but really and truly, what we got to do is we've got to decide this is important, and we got to do something about it. If we don't decide we're not doing something, we're doing something wrong, we'll never get to it. We'll never do anything about it. Mark, we've got to do more in regard to the drug situation, don't we? But we've done a lot. We started Jim's Dream. It went into Jobs and Hope. We've helped a lot of people, but we can help more. We can do even more. We know that, but we didn't do anything. All we did was kick the can down the road and didn't do anything until we decided it was important. Or we decided we were doing something wrong. At the end of the day, just think about it, Mark. How does the alcoholic get better? He stands up and says, I'm screwing up. I'm an alcoholic. How do we get saved in the church? We stand up and say, I'm screwing up. Until we do that, we won't get better. We won't get better. That's what we have to do with child care.
Thank you, Mark. Next up is Charles Young with WV News.
Hi, this is Charles Young with WV News. Governor, I know you just said that the point of the tax cut was, not to put all the money in the world into people's pockets, but could you talk a little bit about the expected impact on folks' take-home pay? Yesterday in the House, I think the figure was repeated a couple of times that this would amount to about 40 cents a paycheck. Is that accurate? Thank you.
Charles, I've not done the math, and I've not done that. I think it's right at 46 total $1 million going into the pockets of West Virginians. Now just think, Charles, 46 million going into the pockets of West Virginians. It sounds like a lot of money if you put it all together that way, But I do believe that the Toby and Ediths out there, it's not going to be all the money in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but they see that we're trying and we're making progress. They got 21.25%, then they got 4%, now they got 2%. And if we keep on going forward, before you know it, it will really, really become a reality. West Virginia's on the pathway, not only on the pathway, but they're getting totally rid of their personal income tax. Now, Charles, listen to me. Any business guy would tell you on the planet that if you put $46 million into the people's pockets of West Virginia, they'll spend it. I'm a business guy, Charles, and the multiplier effect of those dollars is going to be 10 times that. So in that situation, if you do the math, that's $460 million that's rotating around in our economy. Absolutely, it will make a big difference. That's all there is to it. And so Charles, and the biggest thing of all is you ask the powers to be in D.C. or wherever, they're all looking. They're looking at West Virginia and saying, dang, they did 21.25, they did 4%, now they've done 2%. They're trying to get there. And it will make a profound difference about people coming and people looking at this state.
All right, thank you, Charles. Next up is Amelia Nicely with West Virginia Watch.
So, Charles,
Hi, Governor.
Wait just a second, Amelia. Let me say other thing to Charles. Charles, and not slighting Charles in any way, because I love you with all my soul. But Charles, if you just step back and you think about Clark standing there, he'd worked his tail off. We got 21.25, we got 4%, we got 2%. The first time taxes were cut since 1987, we got 21.25, we got 4%, we got 2%. And to say, well, it only amounts to just a little teeny bit in a person's paycheck, that to me is like saying, Clark, after we worked so hard to get those lights on that house, Clark, that third row up there isn't twinkling. That doesn't make much sense to me. Okay, Amelia, go. Sorry.
That's okay. No problem. I have a follow-up kind of to Mark's question. So the House had several childcare focused bills during the regular session. Several of those were vetted by the House Health Committee. I know that lawmakers and the Chamber of Commerce had asked you to consider putting those bills on the special session. So why was that something that you opted not to include on this call?
Amelia, I really don't know exactly what you're referring to, other than the fact that we work hand in hand with the leadership and we agree on what will work and what won't, what's got a shot and what's not got a shot. It may very well have been my team, that worked with leadership, and they decided together this isn't gonna fly. And so why put it on the call just for the sake of putting it on the call. I know, Amelia, that we ran into, my $20 million that I wanted to put into health care in addition to the tax break, or child care rather, in addition to the tax break, all of a sudden it sputtered, and then all of a sudden it got down to where we trimmed it all the way back down to $5 million basically as a pilot program. And then what happened then, as I understand, is lobbyists, were up there going crazy trying to grab the cheese. And before you know it, the legislature just got tired of it and said, we're done. We're not going to do that. And so, it is so simple. It is so simple, Amelia, is when we decide that child care is a real problem and it warrants absolute consideration and concern and whatever it may be, we'll do something about it. And we'll do something about it in a profound way. This is a start. Yay, yay, and I'm happy we got a start. But we need to do more.
Amelia, thank you. Next up is Callan Bailey with West Virginia Public Broadcasting. We'll try Callan again now. Stephen Allen Adams. Stephen, you good to go?
Breaker 19, mic check. 1 2 1 2. Can you hear me? Mic check. 1 2.
We got you, Stephen.
Oh, Lord.
Right. Governor, talk a little bit about the compromise that you all did come up with. Obviously, we're talking about the 2%. Part of that is also delaying the trigger mechanism that was put in place in the 2023 tax reform bill to make that more palatable. How did you come to that agreement? And also, sort of related to that, you've talked about the success of the 37 bills you passed. Of the bills that didn't pass, are there any that you had specifically wished would have made it over the finish line by last night? Thank you.
Well, let me go backwards, Stephen. Of course, I want them all to get across the finish line, but at the same time, you know good and well they're not all going to get across the finish line. There's no way, But and Stephen, I didn't get the second part of your question, but I got it enough. Let me try this, okay? The compromise all centers around one thing. Let's just go back just for a second. How do we have all the successes? How do we have all these successes? The primary driver is we've kept a flat budget. That's the primary driver. As long as we keep a relatively flat budget in the state and we don't throw away money and we just don't grow the budget for the sake of growing the budget, we don't have a bunch of pet projects and all that kind of stuff. As long as we keep a relatively flat budget, a lot of good stuff happens. So in other words, what's the flat budget all about? The flat budget is about minding the store. And this gets right to your question. There are folks that believe and we listen. I wanted to do the 5%. I wanted to do something, in addition to the 4% trigger. So you've got 134 folks that are there and everything else. And we did do something, and we should celebrate, my good Lord of living, we should celebrate forever. Because now we've sent another message to the world. But we absolutely all of us want to mind the store and mind the store properly. So with all that being said, that's what we've done. We've just done exactly that. We hope to awaken down the road to the fact and say, well, maybe we could have done more. Yay. But what if things don't go just as great as what we hope they're going to go, or we project that they're going to go, and maybe, just maybe, we feel better about the fact that we did 2, and maybe then we can do another 2 or another 5 or whatever it may be down the road. But the whole gist of the whole thing is good work by a lot of people that are genuinely trying to do exactly what has gotten us to where we are. Mind a store. You know, Stephen, and you can write anything you choose to write. But Stephen, from my standpoint, my number one job is to keep the economics right about West Virginia. I know we could have done 5%. There's no big deal there and everything. The difference between 5 and 2 is surely not significant. But with all that being said, Stephen, the very reason we are where we are is we kept a flat budget. We minded the store, Stephen, and we did it right. We did it right. And absolutely, I'm proud that the legislature was working hard to do it right. They did. And so I don't know how we can do anything except celebrate this day where we've all worked together, got to more tax relief. We've got to a better situation to where we're showing the world what's going on in West Virginia. And, you know, we're basically echoing from the mountaintops and the valleys of this great state that West Virginia is where you need to be. So hundreds and hundreds, billions of dollars of additional dollars invested in this great state to just make things better. And I don't know how in the world you can do anything except celebrate that.
Stephen, thank you. Next up, we'll go back to Callan Bailey with West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Thank you. Hope you can hear me now. Keelan Bailey with West Virginia Public Broadcasting. I just wanted to ask, there was some confusion among legislatures about why nuclear radiation regulation was on this special session call, and I was wondering if you could specifically explain why the Department of Health was chosen as the state radiation control agency.
I think the simple answer is the legislature requested it, you know, and, you know, as far as I think health already regulates some nuclear, you know, items and whatever, or material, and the legislature requested it.
Keelan, thank you. Finally, Governor is Beth Sargent with the Gazette-Mail.
Finally. Hey, Governor, it's Beth Sargent with the Gazette-Mail. Hey, I'm going to pivot just a bit to your Senate campaign. And I've been trying to connect with your campaign folks, but I haven't had any luck yet. I'm working on a election preview. And in your race, I wanted to ask you, I think folks have an idea of what your priorities are as governor. I mean, they can look at the special session for sure. But what will your priorities be as their senator? Thank you.
Well, Beth, first of all, you know, I'm sorry that you fell into last spot here because you've been very good, and I appreciate you. Like I said before, you know, you've been very fair with me. But my priorities are pretty daggum simple, Beth. You know, I'm a real believer that Washington is totally dysfunctional right now. And I'm a real believer that an awful lot of the reason that it's dysfunctional is it's a constant one-upping of, you know, if you're a Republican, then what can I do to get it to Democrats? And if you're a Democrat, what can I do to get it to Republicans or an independent same way? You know, so with all that being said, you know, it's become not even close to civil. It is totally dysfunctional. And so with all that being said, really and truly, you know, Beth, I've got rock solid conservative values, you know that. But beyond that, I'm not going to be one that's going to be dysfunctional. You know, I'm going to be respectful to all. I really believe on top of that the number one, the craziest issue in the world for this country is we abound in natural resources beyond belief. And at the end of the day, I've said it 10 million times, but the more energy that any country in the land has, the healthier the people are and the longer they live. You know, it is completely crazy for us in the United States of America to not have an energy strategy or an energy policy. We don't have either one. You know, from the standpoint of what I would best be suited for would be, as far as committees, would be finance or energy. And so there is so much that needs to be done, but Beth, at the end of the day, I'm not going there. I'm not going there for anything in the world to do with me. You know, I'm not going there because I want to go to D.C. I don't really have any great love to go to D.C. I don't need the next hot tip. I don't need, you know, the next invite to the next cocktail party or the Oval Office or whatever it may be. I hope like crazy that President Trump wins. You know, I'm a real true friend and an ally in every way, and I really believe that he can move the needle to get us moving in the right direction. And so with all that being said, Beth, you know, I really, as silly as it may sound, and it could very well sound really silly, but Muhammad Ali said when he won his heavyweight fight against Sonny Liston, and he said, "I shook up the world." And really and truly, Beth, from my standpoint, when I walked in the door, and as your governor, and I looked at those books, and I looked at where we could go or what we could do, you know, I feel like I shook up the world. And really what would be the greatest dream of my life is to be able to go into that mess in D.C. in some way, somehow, shake up the world. And and put America where America really should be, and that is back to being admired by all in every way, back to be so giving and caring and all those things in every way, being feared in every way maybe, you know, but absolutely in a loving way embraced. And so America is upside down now. And we know we're upside down, and it's scary. It's really scary. And so, you know, I'm 73 years old, and I surely don't need another job or need to go, but I go, and I go very proudly. I'm a patriot through and through. I love this state beyond good sense, I really do. But I love this country too. So I'm going to go give it my very best. I promise you that.
Beth, thank you. And Governor, back to you.
Listen, I've run my mouth enough. We ought to celebrate yesterday and a week ago and this unbelievable success in this special session. It is an unbelievable day to celebrate. The last thing I'd say is we should have had tons and tons more media outside when we had 1,300 and some odd people standing there, not for me, and not even for the projects, but for them. For all those great people that were out there that put their life on the line and do great work for us all the time, every day, in making our roads what our roads are in this great state and making our lives better. We should have been there in every way for them and everything. So you know, what an incredible day. But what an incredible session here, and so to all the lawmakers, and you know, and let's be super thankful again to our Senate President and everything as he takes on other things in his life and everything. But we appreciate him beyond good sense, and we appreciate our Speaker Roger Hanshaw and all of our great lawmakers and everything. We've worked together fantastically. And believe me, B, we had a plan. We had a real plan, and it worked. So God bless each and every one of them. Thank y'all.